Excellent. And I will just make a note for the recording as well. All of the information I'm presenting on LinkedIn today is current to now, October 2021. The user interface might update or change in the coming months or years. So I just want to put that little disclaimer on there. But thank you so much, Joanne, for inviting me to come and speak with you all and talk about LinkedIn. So my name is Erin Algersma. I use she, her pronouns. I think you got a little bit of information about me. But I'm the student employment coordinator here at Cabrillo College. And so that means a lot of different things that I will just kind of highlight in just a moment. I'm going to go ahead and share my slides here. Just a note as well, in addition to the recording, I know Joanne's going to share a PDF version of these slides as well. So you all will get a copy of the information that we're reviewing today. So just a quick agenda of the time we're going to run through. I'm going to talk again about the career development team in my office. We'll talk about why you should have a LinkedIn profile to start off. And then we'll get into kind of some of the semantics. So how to set up your profile, both what to prepare before you even set up your profile, during the setup, and then things to take care of afterwards. I also want to spend some time talking about privacy because I know that that's sometimes one of the biggest concerns people have in even beginning to set up a profile and might prevent you from feeling like you want to take that dive into creating a profile. But I'll show you some of the things you can do to really, I guess, change the settings of what the default privacy settings are when you do sign up. And then, of course, we'll wrap up with any time for questions. So with that, I just want to start off by talking about the career development team. So that's where I'm housed at Cabrillo, and there's a lot of different things that we do to support both current students and alumni. I know we've got some alums here. And so it's not just this workshop on LinkedIn. I know I'll come back and do some more with this group here, but we do workshops on resume writing, how to prepare for interviews, anything really related to finding and getting a job. We also host the on-campus job board, which is also open to alumni. We've got on-campus, off-campus, part-time, full-time jobs, and really all over California on the job board there. We also host career fairs and hiring events and have a lot of great web resources on our website. But then we also meet one-on-one with students. So if there's a specific job that you all are applying for and you just want someone to take a look over your resume and be like, is this good enough? You know, am I good to submit? We'll meet with you one-on-one and take a look at that. If you get an interview, we do mock interviews with you. So, or if after today, you're like, I got my LinkedIn profile set up and ready to go, hey, I'm happy to sit down one-on-one with you and take a look and see if there's anything else that needs to be addressed. We also do all of the hiring for on-campus student assistants at Cabrillo College. That's a large part of my role. And then we also have a lot of non-credit classes. So these are free asynchronous classes. It typically takes about a week to complete them. And these classes cover everything from how to build a polished resume to what are some kind of soft skills or skills that you need within the workplace to really thrive. And so again, those are free. We offer them pretty regularly. I'm happy to share more information about those if that's something that interests any of you. So that's just a little introduction to me and some of the other resources we have, but let's focus on LinkedIn for the rest of the evening. I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll here for those of you who are present, because I just want to get a sense of who is in the room and whether or not you even have a LinkedIn profile. Awesome. Give it a second or two more. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and share the results just because I think it's helpful for you all to see this as well. And so it looks like the majority of you do not even have a profile, or if you technically have a profile, you never really set it up. We have a couple people who do already have profiles, but only one of you regularly uses it. So I'd love to have you pop in, whoever you are, if you have any expert tips as we're going along about why you use it and what you've noticed is helpful for you. So thanks so much. So why should you get a LinkedIn profile? This is my meatiest slide. I will give that warning now. This has the most content because there's a lot of reasons why you should have a profile. But I broke it down really into these 4 main reasons. 1, it makes you visible to recruiters. 2, it's another avenue to find jobs. 3, and this is a big reason people don't often think of, is it's a really excellent source of professional development. And 4, it goes beyond your resume. So let's break those down a little bit. So making you visible to recruiters, that's one of the big things that people kind of associate with LinkedIn. And I have to say, it makes the job search a little bit easier, right? Rather than you finding a job might find you. And that is, I personally think that's really attractive in thinking about you don't have to do all the searching. Just some statistics from LinkedIn directly, 87% of recruiters at companies just nationwide and even worldwide are active on LinkedIn, and that's how they're finding their candidates for their companies. The other thing that we know is 60% of jobs and job openings aren't actually found from websites like Indeed.com or, gosh, what else even is there? Those specialized websites for your field. I use higheredjobs.com, right? Since I work in education, things like that. That's only 40% of the jobs. That's how people are getting them. The other 60% is through networking, including LinkedIn, right? Finding a job that's posted or shared by one of your connections, things of that nature. So again, it's another avenue to find jobs. LinkedIn itself has its own job platform. And if you turn on the setting when you set up your profile, it'll start recommending jobs for you. So again, instead of having to go to a site like Indeed and enter all the filters of what you're looking for, it'll automatically recommend jobs for you based on the information that you have in your profile. And it's a learning algorithm. So the more you respond to the jobs that it recommends for you, the smarter it'll get in terms of what you're actually qualified for when it keeps making those recommendations. And I just, again, think that's easier than setting filters. 4 people, this is a stat from LinkedIn directly, 4 people are hired every single minute based on LinkedIn connections. So if you're in the job market, it's definitely something you want to consider, having that LinkedIn profile. Professional development. Again, this is one of those, I think, untapped reasons we don't talk about enough when it comes to LinkedIn. This is what I personally use LinkedIn for these days. I'm not on the job market, but I love being able to maintain connections with both my past coworkers, but also with just others in the field, others who are in higher education, others who are doing career development work like I'm doing. It's how I learn information about LinkedIn itself, about trends for, what I need to be recommending to you all about resumes. And it also helps me learn about conferences, and I get to follow professional organizations. The other thing to consider is a lot of professional organizations are behind a paywall, right? You have to be an active paying member, and that includes even being able to access their articles. Whereas with LinkedIn, if it's posted there, you oftentimes get free access to their articles if you follow the organization. So again, it's an opportunity for professional development, free professional development, and really to stay active within your field of study. And then finally, it goes beyond your resume. If we ever talk about resumes, if I talk about resumes with any of you, one of the biggest things that I'll emphasize with you all is really your resume should be staying at about 1 page. And that's not a lot of room for a lot of the experience that some of you have. Whereas LinkedIn is the opportunity for you to really kind of everything that gets cut from your resume should be absolutely going into your LinkedIn profile. There's no page limit. There's no, word count limit or anything like that in terms of the information that's shared. So it's an excellent place to really share those experiences that you've had that just maybe don't fit on your resume or aren't appropriate, for specific jobs that you're applying for, but you still wanted to highlight are part of your experience. The other thing is that this is a more dynamic thing to include than your resume when you're applying for jobs. And there's some stats there on the screen there about how when you include a link to your LinkedIn profile on your resume, it actually increases both your chance of getting the interview and even eventually getting the job. So the statistics are there, we'll put it that way. So let's go ahead and dive into actually setting up the profile. And since so many of you don't have a profile, or maybe you kind of have the login, there's just two main assumptions I am making that I'm not going to get into in terms of the actual profile setup. But number one is that you have a resume. It's okay if you don't, but it's just going to make things a lot easier when you're going through the setup if you have some form of a resume of your past either jobs or even volunteer experiences, things of that nature. The other assumption that I'm making is that you have a professional email address, or an email address that you're going to check regularly when it comes to using your LinkedIn account regularly. So you want to make sure that that's the email address that you're using when you actually go ahead and sign up for the four of you who said you did not have a profile yet.
Erin,
Yeah,
can I add something?
please.
And I mean, another point you're making is that the email address should be a professional email address.
Yes.
Like some of you guys have like funny kind of emails, or very, I remember I had a student, fun of choice at whatever, Gmail. You got to make something professional, and it should have your name in it. I know for me, when I hear about something and I think of one of you, like if I hear about a job or I hear about something and I think, oh yeah, Edgar would be great at that, I'll do a search on my email, Edgar. And if Edgar's name, if it takes me too long to find Edgar's email address, you're probably not going to get the email from me. So it's better to have your name in the email address. Okay, thanks, Erin.
Yeah, that's a great point. The one reason I always say make sure it's an email account you actually check is because I want to make sure you're getting the notifications, right? That you're going to engage with those sorts of things. So make sure that whatever professional email address you're setting up, you will check. But that's a very important point because the email address you use in your profile sign-in is shared on your account. So anyone who's looking at your profile will be able to see the email address, including future employers. Okay, I keep switching before I'm ready. So I'm gonna go ahead and dive in and talk about the before, during, and after of setup. I just wanna put the kind of mention here that the reason I broke it even down into a before setup is one of the big reasons that I find people don't actually go through with setting up their profile is there's too many things to consider, right? When we're talking about applying to jobs, even putting together a resume or things like that, we're selling ourselves. And that can be really nerve wracking for some of us. It's this idea of having to put yourself out there and, boil down your life's experience into a profile. And so the reason I have these items as before is really just these are things to help you follow through with your profile setup. Of course, if you already have a profile, that's fine. Just make sure that these are things you're paying attention to when you go back to maintain your profile and really keep it up to date. So with that, one of the best things you can do before you even sign up for a LinkedIn profile is to have your profile and background photos ready. And so one of the things that kind of misconceptions is that your profile photo absolutely has to be a professional headshot. It doesn't actually need to be, but it does still need to be professional and authentic. So the photo of you does need to be close to your face. Ideally, we're looking at shoulders up in the photo, and there should absolutely not be any other people in the photo with you. But my husband took mine in our backyard. Like it doesn't have to be super fancy. You don't have to pay money for it. Just a photo of you, shoulders up. That's what we're going for. The background photo, this is a relatively new feature in LinkedIn, depending on when some of you signed up for your profiles. And this is kind of a header that's going to be on your profile when people first land there. This is an excellent opportunity for you to display a passion, whether that's professionally or personally. And LinkedIn has a lot of default options when you first log in to choose to even change your background photo. You can choose one of the default ones that they have, or honestly, just a quick Google search of LinkedIn background photo will give you a bunch of different options. This is totally an okay photo for you to have others with you. You can, have a photo of the company that you work for, or maybe even your school, something like that, just as a way to kind of claim something that you're proud of. Just a note for those of you who are Instagram users or are familiar with those kind of settings, you have the opportunity to do all the same filters. So, the color filters, the same cropping, the alignment, all of those things are embedded into the photo upload features. And I'll go ahead and just kind of show you some examples as best I can without setting up a profile myself. I know it's kind of grainy here, but the photo in the top right is what it looks like when you are uploading your profile photo. And it'll have this circle tool essentially for you to choose what part of the photo is being accentuated. And there is that zoom option here as well. So you have the ability to zoom in on yourself, but of course you don't want to make sure, or you do want to make sure that the photo you're selecting doesn't have you too far out, because again, then it's going to be a grainy photo. On the bottom here, we've got the former CEO now of LinkedIn, his profile. And this is just a good example of what the background photo is going to look like against your profile photo. This is also a great profile photo here. But of course, as a CEO of a company, he chose a company image for his background photo. Again, you can play with it, have fun with it, just make sure it's still professional. But it's an opportunity to still have some authenticity in your profile. Another thing you want to consider setting up before you even sign up for LinkedIn is there's two writing sections that you can prepare in advance. The first is your headline, and the second is your summary. We'll look at some examples in a moment, but the headline is really a short, no more than 25 words, and even that's a little excessive. Like really you're aiming for 12 to 13-ish words total. This is just a short objective and summary of who you are and your professional identity. Again, we'll take a look at some examples. It's also an opportunity for you to state if you're looking for work, and you'll see how you can kind of word that in your headline. The summary section, this is your about section. This can be meatier. This needs to be meatier. And this is one of the best opportunities if you have a cover letter drafted to recycle that and make it generic. And one of the other kind of things I want to recommend that you're doing in this summary section is you're using industry keywords. So within the field of engineering, what are those standout skills that you see in every single job description you're looking at, right? What are those industry keywords? Find ways to incorporate those into your summary, because those keywords are what recruiters are searching for. So they're just looking for profiles that have those keywords in them. And your summary is one of the best places to put that. Another note about drafting your summary is to consider the first 1 to 2 sentences, because when you actually look at the profile, it's just the first 3 lines that appear. Everything below that, someone would have to click the see more in order to get the rest of the summary. So you want that hook, you want that, this is exciting, I want to read more about this person in order to pull them in. At minimum total length, you do want at least 1 paragraph. But again, take your cover letter, have multiple paragraphs, that's fine. And another option, while your email address is displayed on your profile, someone has to click in to get it. So you're welcome to include your email address in your summary as well, if you're open to direct connections. So let's go ahead and take a look at some examples, starting with headline. I have 3 different examples here. The use of this bar is really popular to kind of separate out different identities that you might have in your headline. You can see here this person included some specific skills that they have already in their headline as a way to demonstrate who they are. If your identity is as a student, great. Seeking what kind of job you're looking for. Again, you can put that in your headline. That's just fine. One of the reasons why your headline is really important is this photo is how it appears when someone is searching. So if they're just looking up the name Aaron, and looking for my profile, they would see Aaron Elgersma, my full headline, San Francisco Bay Area, right? So the headline is it's just as visible as your name is when someone is searching on LinkedIn. And that's why it's really important to be thoughtful about how you're condensing your professional identity, and why it's helpful to prepare this before you're setting up your profile so you feel like you can just enter it when you're going through those details. Um, Again, these slides will be emailed to you, but this link has a bunch of different examples of headlines for students that I thought were really excellent. And they break down headline examples by different fields and really kind of summarize what's in this image as well. So you'll get access to this after today to kind of help you construct this. So take a look at the examples, take a look at this link and this image as a way to help construct your headline. These are two different summary examples, and the first one is actually just kind of a formula. If you want to stick with a short summary, if all you want is just a paragraph, that's a good formula you can use and put into your summary. The bottom one is a much better, more thought out summary, and of course they can be much longer than this. I wouldn't be able to fit it all on a slide. Similar to previously, there's another great link here of examples of summaries. And a lot of these, again, very different fields, and a lot of them are student summaries as well. So I thought that was helpful. What I like about this bottom example is the highlighted skills, right? This is a little bit like taking some of the elements from your resume and incorporating them into your about. Highlighting those specific skills that you know you have that are marketable, that are highly sought after within your field. This is, again, one of those places to be putting those keywords. So what are the requirements that are coming up on all the job descriptions you're looking at, right? Are they looking for someone with account management experience? Then you're putting account management experience. If there's a specific software that you keep seeing is being requested, put it here. Right? Again, this is what is searchable to recruiters. So you want to be considering as many things as possible that you can put in here and that really help accentuate who you are and the skills that you have. Okay, so that is the writing examples. That's really the before section. I want to take a moment and pause here if there's any questions at this point so far. And you'll have to just speak up because I can't see you. Great. We'll keep rolling right along. So now you've prepared your photos, you've prepared your headline and your summary, you're ready to sign up. Let's go for it. For those of you who already have your profile, dust those credentials off and get signed back in. So again, like we talked about with the email address, make sure you do use an email where you are going to receive notifications. LinkedIn is effective if you only interact with it. And so one of the things it does do is notify you. Yes, it can be annoying. And I know we all have the habit of signing up for too many things via email and our inboxes get flooded, but be mindful of the emails you are going to receive from LinkedIn, because again, this is where those jobs recommendations are going to come through. If someone is messaging you, you'll get the notice there. If a recruiter is messaging you, they can do it through what's called a direct mail message that goes to your email from LinkedIn. So you want to be able to get those notices. When you are creating a sign-in, and if you haven't already done this, you do want to enable the location. The reason why is this allows it to recommend jobs for you in your local area. You can, of course, go into your profile settings and ask for it to recommend jobs for you in a different regional area if you're planning on moving or relocating. But just be mindful that it is important to set up that field so that the jobs that are recommended to you are applicable to where you currently are located. Again, when you're going through the setup, it's going to ask you the question, are you a student? Definitely hit yes. It will make things a little bit easier. Even if you have work experience in addition to just being a student, I think it's still helpful to just hit that yes button, because it'll kind of accentuate it'll make entering your academic studies a little bit easier, in my opinion. Of course, you're going to enter your name. It'll also allow you to enter your pronouns, which is great. And this is a new feature that they just launched, but you can also upload your name pronunciation, a recording of it. This is only available in the app version. I went in and did this. It's super easy. There's just a little speaker that's next to my name. So anyone who goes to my LinkedIn profile, even on a desktop, on a tablet, anything like that, they just hit the speaker and they'll hear me saying my name. So for those of us who have names that folks might mispronounce frequently, it's a great tool. And then once you're entering those details as you're signing up, again, that headline that you already prepared, those photos you already selected, and that summary are all good to be entered. And that photo shows you how to upload your pronunciation if that's something you want to do. The next thing you want to make sure you do set up is your education section. Some of you might have multiple degrees. You might have gone to Cabrillo as an opportunity to re-career. And that's fine. The one kind of recommendation I would just make to those of you who might have experience scattered across multiple fields is to consider what is the professional presence you want to establish on LinkedIn, right? If it's a completely different field, you don't really feel like you take skills from that field, which is rare, from past experiences, you're welcome to leave it off. I'd encourage you to include it, but again, you do want to be mindful that you're not including too many degrees or programs and that you're forcing someone to scroll through too long of a profile. So just be mindful if you have multiple degrees and how you're kind of tailoring your information for what kind of professional experiences you're aiming to seek out on LinkedIn. Of course, you should absolutely enter your current program here at Cabrillo or the program you just went through as an alum. And the other thing is that as soon as you enter the schools you've attended, it will use that school as a point of connection, and it'll recommend, it'll tell you when you're like looking at a company, for example, how many alumni from Cabrillo work here at this company. So it's also helpful because you can kind of see, oh, where are Cabrillo alumni getting hired? Maybe I know one of them. It'll give you their profile names. You can reach out. Again, use that networking to be able to get exposure for jobs. The description that it asks you to enter for education here is an opportunity for you to add specific classes. And I highly recommend you do so, especially if they're classes that aren't, so to speak, standard for your degree. So, an introduction to English class that everybody has to do as a prereq, you can leave that off. But your more advanced engineering classes, things that are a little bit more specialized, include those because that helps you stand out. And it's an excellent place for you to be able to say, hey, I do have these skills because I took this class. You can leave your grade off. It'll ask for that. If your GPA is 3.5 or above, go for it if you really want to celebrate that. But don't worry about including that if you're not into that. The next thing you want to do as part of your setup is enter your experience. And this is, again, where having a resume is going to make things a lot easier because you can essentially just copy and paste from your resume. It does require some fine tuning, and you could, in theory, set this up in the before section if you really wanted to, but you have to enter each job individually. And so it's a little bit easier to just kind of put the effort in while you're setting up the profile, in my opinion. You do want to list pretty much any position that you've held in the past. Keep in mind that when it first prompts you for experience, it is talking about professional work experience. This is still an appropriate place to put any internships if you've had them. Just behind the title of your position, just make sure it's known that it's an internship. If you don't have work experience, you just have volunteer experience, there is a separate volunteer experience section that you'll actually enter that under instead so that it has that header that says volunteer experience. Again, if you do have a laundry list of past positions, do consider what you want to include on there in terms of curating your professional profile, and keep in mind what's relevant for the types of jobs that you're going for. And again, how long someone's going to have to scroll down on your page to look at your past experience. When you're entering the position, it'll ask you, who was the employer and what was your title. It'll automatically calculate the length of time that you've been there when you enter the date that you started. And then you want to include a brief description of your role. So something ideally that's sentences. If you're just copying and pasting from your resume and you have the bullets, that's fine. It's the type of thing that you should go into later and refine so that it reads more like a paragraph. Just a nice little summary of what did you do in the job and how did you contribute. That's the big thing. You want to look for what are those accomplishments that you had in that role, not just I checked email and I did data entry. It's I solved this. I implemented this program. Action verbs is what we're looking for. Again, this is an excellent place to use those industry words. So if there's specific projects that you worked on that again are viewed in those job descriptions, this is where you want to put it. And then you can also add documents or links. So if any of you have projects, maybe, if you have left Cabrillo and you're at a UC or CSU, oftentimes for your, senior thesis or something like that, you might have a portfolio of work. You can link that here. It's the same setup for your education section as well. So you can do links to, YouTube, you can do a document, anything like that, to really demonstrate, here's the work that I actually did, which is exciting. Well, we went too far. Okay, the last thing you really want to pay attention to when you are doing this setup on your profile, and this is definitely a big one for any of you who already have a profile but maybe haven't really put much effort into it, please make sure you claim your URL quickly. So when you automatically sign up for your LinkedIn profile, it's going to assign a URL that just has a bunch of letters and numbers, just like any old boring URL that's difficult to read. That doesn't look great on a resume. And similar to what we talked about with your email, it's really helpful if your URL can be as close to just your name as possible. Of course, some of you have names that are more common, and so just your name might already be taken, but it'll tell you pretty quickly if it's already been taken. If it has, switch the order, do last name, first name, add the number, do the hyphen, whatever you need to do to make it unique, but still closely related to your name. This is going to make your URL, again, when it's on your resume, that much cleaner. The other reason why you want to do this is that this makes it a lot easier for networking situations. So say you're at a conference or you just happen to meet someone who works at a specific company, rather than, if you don't have business cards, which who does, you can then go ahead and just say, hey, let's connect on LinkedIn. It's a lot easier if you know your name is just your URL, so you can be found a lot easier. And vice versa. If you want to look someone up, it's going to be easier if you have their unique URL. These instructions are pretty simple on how you can actually go in and claim your URL. And again, you'll get a copy of the slides after today. So that is everything on the setup portion, the during setup, so to speak. Any questions at this point? Great, we're rocking and rolling. After. So, like I said, LinkedIn is only helpful if you actually use it. And one of the things that you do need to do in order to use LinkedIn is to have connections. And so this is building your friend list, building the people that you know. But go ahead and start easy. Add your classmates, add your professors, add the people who are on this call. And that makes it super easy to just already have 15 people, right, that you're connected to on your LinkedIn profile. Once you start adding people, it will give you recommendations based on where you've worked and where you attend school. So it'll say, oh, hey, you go to Cabrillo College, you might also know these people, and go for it. Make your connections from there. The other thing that you want to do after you've set up your profile is to start selecting the organizations and the people that you want to follow. So keep in mind, anyone that you have a connection with on LinkedIn, so essentially you're going to start getting their activity in your feed. And then of course, any organization that you follow, their activity is going to be published to your feed as well. So it'll look like this photo here. This is what your home landing page, this is your feed. This is a post from a connection that you can view, and you can see people's reactions to it. And then you can also get information from organizations that you follow. And then, of course, there's ads. That's going to happen in a free version of any product. You'll also get ads coming up. But you want to be mindful of what's the information that you want to receive content for. And again, if you're going to be using LinkedIn as a professional development opportunity, what are the organizations you want to be hearing from? Who do you want to receive information from? Make sure you're adding them as organizations you want to follow. You can also follow individual people. Bill Gates is a big one that a lot of people follow. Brene Brown is really popular on LinkedIn. Choose who you want to get that advice from. Keep in mind that any reaction or interaction that you make with someone else's post on your feed as it comes up is viewable in your profile, right? So if you have a connection who shared an update and you liked it, people can go to your profile and see what activity you've done and see that you liked that update. Similarly to if you make a comment on an article, or if you share something yourself, of course, that's going to be in your activity as well. So that's just one of those things that we'll talk about a little bit later when we talk more about privacy, but just keep that in mind. Your activity is viewable. The other big thing you want to do after you have your profile set up is do skills and endorsements. So skills is one of the last sections that you do want to ensure you have. So for those of you who already have a profile, if you don't have your skills section set up, I do highly recommend you go ahead and get that set up. But skills is just what it sounds like. What are skills you have? And these are just simple skills. Public speaking is an example. Specific softwares are skills that you can add. Social media, email marketing, anything like that could go onto your skills section. Keep in mind that only 3 are going to actually show on your profile. And then again, it's going to have this lovely show more option for people who are viewing your profile. If you go to the edit button, you can choose which 3 are the ones that are visible. Otherwise, it'll default to which ones you have the most endorsements on. And we'll talk about that in a moment. The one caveat that I would put here is, unlike your resume, in your resume, you might list classes that you've taken as skills. This is not the place for your classes. Again, your classes you want to be adding in that education section. If there are specific skills that you learned from the class, the easy example is it was a class on Excel. Okay, Microsoft Excel, that's a skill that you can then add to your profile. Once you've built out your skills on your profile, then you want to start doing endorsements. So endorsements are really when someone goes to your profile, reviews your skills, and say, "Hey, I know you have that skill." So they're going to click that little plus button that's next to the skill, and it'll pop up and say, "How good is this person at this skill? And how did you observe that this person has this skill?" Keep in mind, both of those don't matter. No one can see that information. What matters is the endorsement, and that's what's here, right? So 10 people have endorsed this person on social media. And then again, you can see it comes up from colleagues. It's just extracting that information from the LinkedIn profile. The easiest thing to do with building your endorsements is to do the trade, right? You go into someone's profile, you just made a connection with them, you go into their profile, you endorse them, and then you say, "Hey, I endorsed you. Can you endorse me back?" And you go from there. Again, one of the easiest things to do is start with your classmates. Start with this group here and offer to endorse with each other based on classes that you've taken or skills that you have from being in this program together. And that's going to help build up the credibility of the skills that you've listed there. Okay. Again, don't worry when it asks you how you know this person or how good they are in that skill. It really doesn't come up. What matters is the endorsement itself. Okay, and then recommendations. Another thing that really helps boost your profile and again, give even further credibility because it gets more specific is to have recommendations on your page. The one big thing I want to just make a note is this is not like a reference letter or a recommendation letter that you have to request for scholarships or admissions or anything like that, just a paragraph. a couple of sentences. That's all it needs to be. It is recommended that you have a variety of different kinds of recommendations. Of course, recommendations from a current or previous supervisor are probably going to go the farthest if you have those available to you, because that speaks highly to your work experience and the skills that you're bringing to the work setting. But have some from classmates, that's fine. You can have coworkers or people that you managed if ever you had the opportunity to provide leadership. Of course, you can ask for a recommendation from someone. Someone can also just go to your profile and write a recommendation for you if they want to, but you have to approve it before it gets viewed in your profile. But of course, if you are going to ask for a recommendation, make sure you have spoken to that person first before you actually submit that request through LinkedIn to confirm. And then again, just like your activity, if you are giving a recommendation, it'll also have that recommendation visible. So any recommendations you are writing are essentially a part of your profile as well. So that's the things you want to set up once you've got the profile going, ways to kind of enhance your profile, so to speak. But again, I'm going to keep saying this. Now that you have a profile and it's all set up and it looks awesome, it still doesn't do you any good if you don't actually continue to use LinkedIn. Like I said earlier, you want to respond to the suggested jobs so that it keeps improving the suggestions that it's making. You want to stay active, whether that's commenting on articles that are being shared or even just a simple like on someone's job update. Things that you're doing that demonstrate, hey, I'm keeping this up to date. Yes, this is still my current job. Yes, these are still my current skills. Help just again create that validity for the information that you're putting out there on your LinkedIn profile. The other thing that's really helpful, again, this is that professional development in addition to finding about jobs you wouldn't have known about otherwise, is if you are working at a company and you're content in your job search, but maybe there's an opening on your team or you become a hiring manager and you're hiring yourself. Sharing that job announcement on LinkedIn can go a long ways, especially if you've built up your connections. Right? So again, it's a reason why adding your classmates as connections is really helpful because you're in the same field. So when those job announcements go around, there's a good chance you're going to find someone who has the skills to be able to fill that position. And again, continue to grow those connections. For every job you have, you should start adding your coworkers and your supervisors. And then when you leave and go to a new position, you do the same thing. Keep adding all the folks that you're working with at conferences, ask to connect on LinkedIn. And of course, then do a nice follow-up message to say, hey, it was great connecting with you at the conference. I'd love to chat in a month or so about what you took away from the conference or something like that. Again, keep your current positions up to date. Keep your headline up to date based on who you are. So if you put student in your headline and you've since graduated, make sure you're changing that to reflect your current professional identity. And even your photo, make sure that's changing from time to time. Again, it's a profile. You have to maintain it. You have to keep it up to date in order to get the most out of it. And as I mentioned earlier, make sure you're responding to the notifications that you're receiving from LinkedIn. And if you need to maintain or edit the amount of notifications you're getting to keep you accountable, do that. So that's the after profile setup that's using LinkedIn. That's really kind of the meat and substance of what I'm going to get into in terms of what you should have set up in your profile, things to consider, ways you want to get those things put together. Any questions at this point before we talk about privacy? Beautiful. So privacy. As I've mentioned as we're going along, pretty much any activity that you make on LinkedIn is tracked as part of how you're interacting with information on LinkedIn. So if that's a concern for you and you don't want things like that to be viewable by others, or you have other concerns about privacy and your information being shared, there are two main places you can adjust what is visible. So first, you can adjust what people see internally on LinkedIn. So this includes people who are connections or just other people who have LinkedIn profiles. This does apply to recruiters, right? So if a recruiter is on a LinkedIn profile, you can restrict whether or not recruiters can view your profile. So just keep that in mind if that's what you're looking for in terms of why you're signing up for LinkedIn. And the instructions on what you can change, it goes here. So from your home profile, you can go to your account, settings and privacy, and then you've got all these different options, and it breaks down to how others see your profile and your network information, how others see your LinkedIn activity. So again, if you don't want them to see that you're liking or commenting on things, how LinkedIn is using your data, and then job seeking preferences. So again, if you're changing regions, you can change what geographic region, blocking and hiding if that's something that you need for security reasons. So all of that can be filtered. Sometimes you can change things so that it's just people you've connected with can view your profile and your information, or you can again make it visible to anyone who has a LinkedIn profile. This meme here, I think, is appropriate in the sense that if you view someone's LinkedIn profile, it'll tell that person, right? So this is why the privacy is important. The other thing that you can edit when it comes to privacy on your page is you can edit what's visible on your public profile. So in the same place that you edit your unique URL, you can choose what items are visible to someone who's maybe using an incognito browser, right? They didn't want to log into their profile, so that it tells you they're looking at their profile. You can choose what information is available to the public. And again, you can restrict it to just connections, so someone can't view a public profile for you, and things of that nature. Okay, so you can be not found on LinkedIn by the public. You can just be found by your connections if that's something that's a concern for you. That is really what I wanted to review when it comes to LinkedIn. For those of you who are present today, I'm going to go ahead and share a link to an eval, an evaluation. If you could just go ahead and quick fill that out in the chat. But while you're working on that, again, I'm happy to take any questions.
Hey, you guys, this is your opportunity to ask an expert. Ask Erin a question. Erin, if they have a question outside of this time, can they contact you through the student employment office?
Absolutely,
Do you
always.
mind putting your email down?
Yeah, I'm going to put the student jobs email. That way,
Okay.
just in case I'm out, someone else gets the message. But yes, all these, everything in this inbox goes to me as well. So if you do have a specific question, you're always welcome to reach out. Or again, what I can actually quick show you, let me quick screen share here. If you are interested in anything else that our office, the career development team, has to offer, including meeting with us one-on-one, from the Cabrillo homepage, if you navigate to students and then down to career services here on this right side, even though it says current students, this is all open to alumni. I'll put that there. So everything that our office does is on this website. If you wanted to meet one-on-one with us, there's this career readiness page, and we have an interest form here. So enter your information here and we'll meet with you about whatever it is that you want support in.
I have a question. Erin,
Yeah.
if an engineer works at a certain company, should the email address they have on LinkedIn be a personal email or should it be the company email?
I would recommend you still do your personal email because
Okay.
again, you might get recruiter messages to that address then. And depending on the company, sometimes they own your email. And so
All right.
you want to make sure that you're reachable, even if you're not employed by that company in the future. Yes. can you message someone on LinkedIn without a subscription? Let me clarify here, because you can also have a subscription on LinkedIn. You cannot message someone on LinkedIn without a profile. So you need a profile yourself on LinkedIn in order to message someone else on LinkedIn. There is a premium version of LinkedIn. I honestly am not super familiar with that. That's what a lot of recruiters use to be able to message you or to send you emails directly through LinkedIn. I hope that helps answer your question. The question that was in the chat.
Okay, well, if there's no more questions, Erin, then I would say, yeah, thank you so much. And oh, actually, I have a question for the audience. What would you like the next workshop to be that Erin runs? I know we work on resumes in Engineering 10, but is there something else that you're interested in? Erin, you had said resumes, interview skills. Could you mention other things that you would be comfortable to have workshops on?
Those are our three primary kind of topics beyond just general career development. Things like job search is really best for us to do one-on-one based on your experience and skills and what kind of jobs you're looking for. And so those three aspects are our primary. The other one that I could do, and this we might want to break it up into a couple of sections, is to talk about soft skills. And soft skill development. So what are the things that you need to be bringing into the workplace that aren't the hard engineering skills, so to speak, right? How to work with your coworkers, how to write emails to your manager, how to manage up, those sorts of things.
Okay, so Josh is suggesting interview skills. And I know Engineering 10 is taught in the spring, so we're going to be talking about resumes soon. So how about, could I get a thumbs up from people? How about we have Erin schedule something about interview skills? How's that sound? Thumbs up. Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, great. So let's do that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that this is a good time because I know there are no engineering classes going on right now. So I'm thinking let's schedule it again on another Wednesday. Maybe we could do it in a few weeks. Definitely, maybe more than a week before Thanksgiving. Maybe the second week of November. Erin, could you look at your schedule and then let me
Yeah.
know what works for you, and then I could announce it again?
Yeah, November. I can tell you right now, November 10 would probably be the best date for me.
Okay.
But we can follow up on email to confirm.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me just look at my calendar. Yeah, let's do it. November 10th.
You
November
might want to
10.
stop the recording.
Oh, okay, I'll stop.